Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be working out in the greenhouse. I'm going to take my Tiger Bark Ficus and give it a pruning. I'm going to have to wrap my ficus in a plastic bag because it's still below freezing outside. It's -4 degrees Celsius as the high today. Later on in the week, it's going to go above freezing and quite warm on some days. So I'll be working on a lot of the tropical trees out in the greenhouse, pruning and repotting. All right, into the plastic bag it goes. Make sure it's closed up underneath so the cold air doesn't get in at the tree. There, that's perfect. I've got the ficus in the greenhouse. It's quite warm in here today, almost 10 degrees Celsius, which isn't bad. All right, I'll get it unwrapped. Just like that. Here's a look at the tree. The tree is getting quite old. It's getting a lot of character on the trunk. Starting to get a branch structure. So I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to be doing to it today. It could be a drastic pruning. It could be a light pruning. I've got to look at the tree and decide where I want to go with the tree and then determine how to get there. I can't help but see an elephant in this tree. There's the elephant's ear, the elephant's eye, his mouth, and his trunk. Sure looks like an elephant to me. This Tiger Bark Ficus doesn't look like a normal tree. The stump is the leftovers from an air layering. The top was air layered off, and this was the stump that remained. I grew it out, a branch, kind of creating a tree form out of the stump. It's got a severe bend in the trunk here. So I think the top of the tree shouldn't look like a normal tree. I think there's a story behind this tree, and I've got to make the top of the tree reflect the hardships of the bottom of the tree. If I look at this tree now, it shows it's growing over top of a rock, and it's got a highly tapered trunk. Like it tapers from very thick at the base to very thin up on this branch. And it has a lot of scarring. Now, that will heal over time and smooth out, but for now, it's got a lot of scarring. It shows a lot of hardship. Usually, if it has a thick trunk like this, it means it's grown and died back and grown and died back many times over the years, which is sort of what's happened to this bonsai. So right now, it looks like the top, well, all the hardships of the tree is over. From this point up, the canopy up here looks lush and tropical. It looks like it's enjoying the finest weather, the finest climate you can imagine. Even if I prune it back, like I could prune a nice rounded canopy on here, I don't know if that would suit the bottom of the tree so much. I mean, it looks okay. It's a possibility, just to prune that umbrella form to the canopy, or a modified umbrella, maybe with some irregularities. Another possibility is to prune the entire top off the tree, kind of making it almost like a windswept, keeping that kind of high taper going up into these thinner branches off to the right-hand side here. So this would be the new leader. That is another possibility. It's a long-term, solution to the tree. Yeah, see, my problem is that this part of the trunk is very smooth. It doesn't have a whole lot of movement, just a gentle sweep going up. Whereas everything else on the tree is very gnarly, and it's nothing's grown quickly and smoothly and rapidly. It's grown and being cut back and grown and being cut back, and it looks very rugged. Another thing, I'm not sure I want the tree to be that tall. Like, it's getting fairly tall. I probably want the tree to be more like this height. So that's my thoughts. I'm thinking about doing some fairly drastic work to this tree once again. I should, before we get too far, I'll rotate it around. I think this has to be the front of the tree, even though it's not ideal. The trunk kind of does lean back a bit and then kind of goes horizontal, and this part of it comes forward. So I will rotate it around so you can see it from all views before, I do any final decisions on it. I'll rotate the tree around. This is the current front, so let's come around to the right side. Coming around to the back. So the back is much smoother. It has this branch sticking, straight out. If this were to become the front, I think that branch would have to be removed. Coming around to the left side and back to the front. Here's a close-up view of the back of the tree. It has a really awesome bark texture, like really rough, very old. It leans towards you, which is nice. It's tough decisions. It's got, a fairly nice radial root spread in this view. You don't see the rock as much, but maybe, that's okay too. Let me pull back a bit. So, yeah, this back branch comes straight towards you, which isn't good. Now I could rotate it a bit like that. That's kind of a nice view of the trunk line. I could kind of eliminate some of the branches that are coming forward here and keep it developing off of this one. I don't know though. I don't know. It looks old from this view, but it's not as interesting a view as the other side, the front here. I mean, the front has that big wound. It's got, I don't know, a little more scarring in that's healed over. It kind of leans away from you, which is not a good thing, but I could bring it forward at the top once again. I think this is the most tree-like view. Anyway, I'll think about it. The Toronto Bonsai Society did a presentation recently about sketching your tree, the future plans for your tree. So taking what you have and kind of in your mind visualizing what you want the tree to look like far into the future. I think that's what I need to do with this tree today. Kind of sketch out what I envision the tree to be and then go about trying to get the tree to look like my sketch. All right, so I've got my sketch pad here. So I should start with the pot. Kind of just rough it in. So the trunk, we have this rock, which is kind of a cement rock. Now the pot could change with this tree. I could change the cement rock for one of the rocks I collected to kind of the roots come around like this. There's a lot of possibilities. A bunch of roots come up here. Bit of a hole here. Some scars here and here. Big kind of scar around here. So that's kind of what the trunk is looking like. I'll just darken it in a bit so you can kind of see the trunk line. Sort of like that. So what I envision, I maybe have this shifted a bit too far over in the pot. Ideally what I'd like is to kind of make this sort of like a cascade. Maybe coming down. This is one possibility anyway. something like that, kind of continuing this line down is a possibility. Right now, this section, it sweeps upwards like this. And I don't know if I cut it off here, I'd have a division here. I could, do a similar thing but up higher. Maybe hope, a branch develops off that upper part, that I can develop this kind of area. But maybe, something like that, a slanting style would suit it quite well. I think the problem is I've got to end, right now this sweeping part keeps going up. And I got a really heavy branch coming off here, one coming here, kind of a scar there. I think I've got to shorten this. Right now I've got this whole area right up to here as kind of a sweeping branch, and it doesn't fit the character of the lower part. So I think, I've got to shorten it, and I can shorten it to this branch right here, and then work with what I have, trying to develop this kind of almost wind-blown kind of look to the tree. Now, this sweeping part here, it will get rough bark eventually in character. But I think, there's no kind of straight sections on this whole trunk of the tree here, except here I've got this sweep, and it looks out of place. Now, it may get better looking in the future, but I think I've got to end it. I think I've got to end it here. And create, maybe something like that for now, and then try and develop branches that can do this, fill in this area, have an apex up here, maybe sort of a offset rounded canopy, not getting the tree too high. So I think that's somewhere to develop the tree in the future, something that would, I think, look good. When I'm developing a tree, I try not to let time be a factor in my decision making. The easy thing to do would be to, develop the canopy up here, and it would look fantastic. It'd look a good tree. If I prune it off to this side branch here, I've got a lot of development to go. I've got to develop all the structure over again. But in the long term, in the long run, I think the tree would look better in the future. So I've got to, when you're making decisions on the trees, try not to let time become a factor in your decision making. Do what would be best for the design of the tree. And if you run out of time, well, someone else can take the tree over and work with what they have. If you always, base your decisions on the tree as like, well, I don't want to wait 3 or 4 years before that branch develops, or I don't want to cut it back because, it took a lot of work developing all this. I don't want to waste all that work. But the important thing is you do what's best for the future vision of the tree. And if you run out of time, well, you run out of time. So as you can probably guess, I have decided to cut the top of the tree off using this branch as the new leader and this back one. I will keep these branches to the back here for now. I don't know if they'll contribute to the design of the tree at all. Maybe even today I'll take them off. I don't know. I'll have a look at it once the top's cut off. Yeah, it's a big decision taking that top off the tree. But I think it's for the better. I think this is just too smooth, long in a constant arc. I think it needs more movement to this tree. All right, here I go. Big decision, a big cut coming up. So I'm going to angle it to about there. Here I go. Done. So, what does the tree look like? Here it is. I still have some pruning to go on the tree. I've got to shorten all these branches back. So I've got this branch comes out, it divides into two here. I've got a little branch here. I want to keep my branches, you know, getting the sections, straight sections getting smaller and smaller as you get towards the tips. I think I'll shorten it. Keeping my branching for now. Let's see what it looks like. Now, I'm looking at that back branch. I don't think that back branch contributes anything to the design of the tree. All that back branch does is it kind of jumbles up the trunk line. So I'm thinking of removing it. It also allows me, if I do decide to change the front of the tree to the back, I'll have that option now without this branch sticking out. So let's rotate it around here. And I'm going to remove it. So here I go. Big changes to this tree today. Just going to get that a little more of a flush cut. There. Before we have a look at the tree, I'm going to plant this as a cutting. So I want to prune it up, kind of reducing the foliage on the tree. Keeping some of the green leaves on it, but definitely reducing it back. Give the roots a chance to grow. Getting rid of some of these straight sections on the branches. Cuttings are hard to root in winter. I may not be successful with this cutting, but there's no harm in trying. If you don't try, I guarantee you won't be successful with your cuttings. But if you try, you'll be successful with some of them, and those are the ones you turn into nice bonsai. I've planted cuttings that I thought had no chance of rooting, and they've rooted. And then I've had other cuttings where I've taken all the best care, keeping them humid, misted, nice warm temperatures, and they don't root. So I just plant all my cuttings, see what survives. Okay, I think that's ready for planting. I could take the slowest one off, I think. Because I have to plant it fairly deeply in the soil line. So this is all underground. And I think that'll do. I'll plant that as a cutting, just see if it roots. Here is a look at what's left of the tree. I actually like it. I think that's a big improvement. It kind of has that windswept look, like there's wind blowing up in this direction, and it's just, you know, beating the front of the tree, and it's just growing with the wind. I think it looks very nice. I think it's something that I can develop into the future, and I'll be really happy with the styling of it. I will rotate it around once again, just so we can see it from all views, in case there's, you know, a nicer front. So here we go. This is the right hand side. Coming around to the back. Oh, some nice views there. Off to the left hand side here. And back around to the front. With some trees, it seems you're taking 2 steps forward and 1 step backwards. This one, I think you're taking 2 steps backwards and maybe 1 step forward. It's making progress, but very slowly. And I think in the end, it'll be a really nice tree because of that. It'll have the right movement and the right taper and the right age and everything to the branches. I think, you know, slowly growing it over the years will make a nice tree in the future. I hope so anyway. We'll see if I can get it closer to that sketch. Generally, after a hard pruning like this, it usually takes anywhere between about 4 weeks to 6 weeks before you start to notice new shoots coming out on the branches. So that will leave me around maybe early January. So I'll do an update then and we'll see what's happening with the tree. Hopefully the results will be good. I'm taking a last look at the tree. I can still definitely see the elephant in there. It's kind of cool though. I like it. It's Friday tomorrow, Ficus Friday tomorrow, and the weather is going to be above freezing, so I'll definitely be working probably on a large ficus out here in the greenhouse. And that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.